Hello, I'm Jeremy Good with Agritier. Today I'm going to walk you through the CEBIS monitor on a Lexion 8600 combine with a Convio front attachment. First of all, I'm going to show you the home screen as you would see it when you're harvesting in the field. So beginning here in the top left, it shows the crop type that we're harvesting, and right below that it will show the moisture of the crop. Here on the top of this combine silhouette, it's going to show the bin fill level, how far we can go until the bin is full. Information about what's happening in the machine. So we have concave clearance, threshing cylinder RPM, cleaning fan speed, bottom sieve clearance, top sieve clearance. If you have a straw moisture sensor, it's going to show the moisture here, rotor speed. Here you can see if the rotor covers are open or closed. Then in the bottom part of the screen here is our performance data. This gauge is showing how full the feeder house is running, and it will show how many bushels per hour we're harvesting across the arch on top of the screen here. This is our grain loss sensors. This shows the amount of material in the return elevator, and right beside it, it shows how much of that material in the elevator is grain in relation to the trash. Next to that shows rotor loss. This is how much separation loss we have, and then sieve loss. Here we have the amount of trash going into the grain bin. This is only showing if we have a grain quality camera equipped machine. And then all the way to the right here is the amount of cracked grain going into the grain bin. And then all the way over here, this graph shows the percent engine load. Over here on the right side, we have 3 customizable displays. So these can be changed to show different information. We always have the top display set for the header information. And on the combine silhouette, we can click any area of the machine to pull up quick settings for that area. So I click on the threshing, it lets me set the threshing cylinder speed, the concave clearance, and whether I want the intensive threshing segment active or inactive, and the concave flap open or closed. And I can simply click that and change it. I can also adjust separation settings, cleaning system settings, straw chopper settings. And if these little A's are lit up, that means CMOS is active. So CMOS automatic is automatically adjusting the threshing system, separation system, and cleaning system, chopping system. And if the A front here is lit up, cruise pilot is on, controlling how fast the machine is driving. If I manually adjust any functions, if I manually adjust the sieve clearance by hitting the button over here on the console, you see the A turns off. It is no longer in automatic mode. To restart CMOS automatic, I can simply click the autopilot button and the auto sieve turns on again. So that's a bit of an overview of the home screen. Next, we will go into each of the submenus on the side here and explore the options in there. So the first menu we're going to open up here is the front attachment menu. So we have several submenus, and then these are the settings for each of the submenus. Here we can adjust the active working position, the reel settings, the feeder house speed, and we can see the actual setting of the lateral tilt. If we go into functions, here are all our automatic function settings. We can turn the auto reel speed on and off, auto reel height on and off, auto reel fore aft, and reel tractive force. If the green circle is lit, it is turned on, and if it's gray, it's turned off. So that's the functions menu. You can go to the parameters submenu. Here we have the front attachment type. We can change this to any of the different front attachment types. We can set the working width. This is actually grayed out because a Convio head tells the machine how wide it is. We can set the number of segments, the number of blocks we can turn on and off as our swath width changes. We also have auto contour, cutting height control, and cross leveling control. So this is the sensitivity adjustment for the automatic header height. We can set it for more sensitive simply by dragging and clicking, and now our automatic header height control is more sensitive. And this one would be for the cross leveling, how sensitive the lateral tilt is. We can make this more or less sensitive. These two are for how fast the head raises and lowers when you hit the manual raise or lower. This one adjusts how fast the head drops when you hit your auto contour button and drop it in automatic mode. Setting this lower will make the head drop more slowly, which can help keep the head from bouncing when it's in auto contour mode. And then we have the maximum auto contour ground pressure. This is the maximum amount of weight that the combine will let the head rest on the ground. This does not need to be changed. It can stay the same for all the different heads. Real tractive effort control changes how sensitive it is to sensing resistance from the reel. If the reel hits the dirt, it will raise the reel up to keep it from hitting the dirt and stalling the reel. Next submenu, the teach-in process. These are calibrations for the front attachment. Front attachment height, you can hit the arrow to start, and it will tell you to raise the front attachment. Hold the raise button until it beeps, then it will tell you to lower till it beeps, raise till it beeps, lower till it beeps, and it should say learning successfully concluded. Same calibration process for the reel height, reel horizontal position, and lateral tilt position. And the last submenu in the front attachment menu is to set the working position set value. So this is where the acre counter starts and stops. If we're above the working position set value, the acre counter is off. If we're below this value, the acre counter is turned on. There are two ways to adjust that. One, we can manually tweak this wherever we want. The other way is to click this and learn the working position. It will set the working position at whatever height the header is when I hit the go button. And that is everything in the front attachment menu. So next we're going to look at a shortcut for the header settings. Simply click the window in the top right and it shows your current set point for your front attachment auto contour height, cross leveling, cutting height on and off, sensitivity of the cutting height control, and cross leveling control. So you can adjust how sensitive your auto contour is right here by going to this shortcut. There's also the set point for the automatic drop rate and the maximum auto contour ground pressure. Next, we're going to look at the drives menu. So we open the drives menu, we have two sub-menus. The first one is diesel engine. We have the max idle speed. This is simply learning the max no load speed. And we have the chassis settings. Driving strategy is how aggressive the hydro handle feels when you move it. Effective driving logic can be turned on to make your ground drive more fuel efficient. With effective driving turned off, you'll have better response on your hydro handle lever. Leave effective driving logic turned off for hilly terrain. Set value for pulses per 100 meter is simply a calibration for your ground speed sensor and then a learning process for that sensor. You can adjust your TerraTrack height level setting to normal, elevated, or high for more ground clearance. You can learn the sensors in the TerraTrack suspension, and you can turn the automatic parking brake off. That will turn back on again after you have cycled the key switch. Next, we're going to look at the steering menu. We have autopilot. We can choose the autopilot guide sensor. No sensor is a good way to test your autopilot valve and wheel angle sensor. Simply turn your wheels and hit the autopilot button. Your wheels should straighten out if the combine side of your auto steer system is working. Sensing band would be for row sensors on your corn head, and if you have a third-party system like AgLeader or Trimble, there would be an option here for third-party GPS. This is for your centralizing adjustment for row sensors. You can tell it to nudge to the one side or the other side of the row. Teach in the straight ahead travel, which is straight ahead zero steering angle calibration for the combine, and teach in sensor arms is for the touch arms on your corn head. Next menu item is the machine. We'll click on the machine menu here. We have numerous submenus here. The first one is your speed submenu. Here we list all of the speeds for each of the components. We have the required speed, which is what the machine wants to see, the actual, what it's actually running. If there's too much deviation between these two, you will get a belt slip error code. You can calibrate these speeds, simply have the machine running full speed, all the functions running, hit start learning process, and it will run all your variable speeds all the way up, all the way down, set them back to the original set point, and get a snapshot of what speed everything is running. Next submenu is the threshing system. We can adjust the cylinder speed and the concave clearance here. As you can see, the A's are lit up, so CMOS auto thresh is turned on. We can adjust the intensive threshing segment in or out and open or close the concave flap. Under separation, here again, CMOS automatic is turned on, but we can adjust the rotor speed and the number of rotor covers that are open or closed. We can adjust the grain loss sensitivity and the loss sensors on or off. Of course, you'd want to leave them turned on all the time. Next submenu is the cleaning system. We have the cleaning fan speed, top sieve clearance, bottom sieve clearance, grain loss sensor sensitivity, returns volume limit. You want to have your returns volume limit at 70% for all crops except corn. You want to set back to 30. This is especially important if you are using CMOS automatic. There's also the sensitivity of the grain meter. This is adjusting the sensitivity of the sensor that tells you how much of the material in your returns is grain. Typically set at default of 30%. You can turn your loss sensors on and off, turn your sieve adjustment on and off, and change the type of sieve that you are using. We typically use the CB22 for both of these. And then there's the learning process for the actuator for the top sieve and the bottom sieve, and also a learning 0 point for the returns. The next submenu is the straw and chaff processing. These are your straw chopper settings. Depending on the chopper you have, these options might look different. This is your spreading adjustment to spread more or less to one side or the other. So if I have this at 0, it will spread straight out the back. If I tip it to -10, it will spread a little more to the one side, and then I can easily flip to the other side by clicking this button, which would be, if you're harvesting in a strong side wind, you can divert more chaff to the one side of your swath. If you have the wind sensors on your straw chopper, that will take care of this for you. You also have the spreading width. You can adjust how wide your chopper is spreading. If you have the premium chopper, you can adjust how much overlap it has in the center, put more or less material in the center of your swath or at the edge. If you have the crosswind sensors, you can turn your crosswind compensation on and off and make it more or less sensitive. You can adjust the position of your tailboard. Only when the machine is turned off, you could set it for chopping, swath, or road travel. You can adjust your chopping quality, adjust your chopper floor up or down. If you adjust it down, it will do more chopping. You can set your stationary knives partially in or all the way in. And with the chopper turned off, you can set it for high speed or low speed. And the bottom is to learn the end stops of the tailboard. It will adjust the tailboard down and back up to learn the range of the sensors on this tailboard. Next submenu under machine is grain delivery. This is your grain tank unloading. Click here to adjust your unloading to slow, which is the same as hitting the slow speed button here on your console. If you want to turn both of your augers off, you can click this and both of your cross augers will stop. After you turn the unloading auger off and back on again, it will resume in high speed. Next submenu is performance optimization. If you're having trouble with any of these scenarios, you can simply click on this and it will give you suggestions for recommended adjustments to fix the problem. The next menu is the automatic settings. This is for CMOS automatic and cruise pilot. So the first submenu is cruise pilot. We we can turn the master switch on and off. If the Cruise Pilot master switch is turned on, as soon as we hit the auto steer button, the A button on the joystick, Cruise Pilot will turn on. We can set the strategy, and typically you want that maximum monitored throughput so that it is watching for grain loss and trying to get the maximum throughput from your machine. We can set the target values. Since we're on maximum monitored throughput, our set point is turned off. We instead set the maximum speed that we want to travel. We set the maximum amount of crop that we want to come in the feeder house, and we set the maximum engine load. Then it will take all these factors into account and run the machine to its maximum performance. We can set the ground speed for unloading to constant ground speed so that when the unloading auger is engaged, it does not vary the driving speed of the machine to make it easier for the grain cart operator to stay under the spout. We can set the sensitivity of the Cruise Pilot anywhere from very soft to very aggressive. Typically, you want to start out as soft until everything is functioning fine and you're used to the machine. You may want to set it more aggressive. And zero throughput is simply learning the 0 point of the throughput sensor in the feeder house. The second submenu is automatic. This is your CMOS automatic functions. Auto header is a feature that is not available yet here in North America. And auto thresh simply turns auto threshing on and off, the automatic adjustment of the concave clearance and cylinder speed. Auto separation on and off, auto cleaning on and off. 4D is turned on by default if auto separation is turned on, and auto slope is turned on by default if auto cleaning is turned on. If those are turned off, you can turn 4D on for additional hillside compensation even if you aren't using auto separation. Auto slope can be turned on if auto cleaning is turned off to give you additional front and back slope compensation for hillsides. Auto crop flow senses belt slip on the machine and turns the header and or the separator off if the machine encounters a slug in order to prevent broken parts or a plugged machine. Leave auto crop flow turned on at all times. Auto chopping automatically adjusts the straw chopper's settings according to the moisture of the crop that's coming in if you have the crop moisture sensor. The next submenu under the automatic menu is optimization strategy. So this is where you go to adjust how your CMOS automatic performs. We can tell it to have smoother or less intensive threshing or increased throughput. So simply clicking it to one side or the other slides your bar around, changes how the CMOS automatic responds. We can tell it to have more aggressive threshing to get tough to thresh crop threshed out or increase throughput. We can improve grain cleanliness. This changes how the sieves adjust and the cleaning fan or increase throughput. And for the straw chopper part of it, we can improve the chopping quality to make it chop finer or reduce fuel consumption. And then the last menu in automatic is settings. We can turn the grain quality camera on or off. We can set the auto crop flow for more or less sensitive. This is the part that adjusts. Auto crop flow is what stops your machine if it senses a plug about to happen. Typically you want to leave that on medium or high. And then we have the inclination sensor learning process, which only needs to be done once when the machine is new or if the sensor is replaced. Next we'll talk about the CMOS Dialog menu. This helps you to adjust for problems with the machine. So if you're having trouble with too much returns, you can click into here, choose whether it's returns volume or the amount of grain in your returns, and then it suggests adjusting a setting to make CMOS work better. In this case, we could set returns volume limit lower so that it tries to keep less returns in the return elevator. The next menu is the crop settings menu. So here is where we change the machine for different crop settings. Currently it is set for wheat. Here are all the settings for wheat. And if we want to switch to a different crop, simply click where it says wheat. We come up with a long list of different crops to choose from. We can choose to switch it to soybeans. And now it says soybeans here. You can see the required settings and speeds for soybeans, but the actual is still set for wheat until we press the play button here. Now it is going to load the crop settings. The next submenu under the crop menu is the quantimeter settings. This is for yield and moisture. We can turn test weighing on and off, which is the calibration procedure for your yield sensor. And we also have the calibration factor. We can manually adjust the yield sensor by manually adjusting the calibration factor. We can also set the test weight for the crop we're harvesting. And important to remember is set the 0 point for your quantimeter frequently. That should be done about twice a week to keep the yield sensor accurate. The next submenu is moisture. So it's showing the current grain moisture, and if you have the straw moisture sensor, it will show the straw moisture. We can turn this grain moisture sensor on and off and adjust the moisture correction to make this moisture show higher or lower. We can turn the straw moisture measurement on and off, and we can choose to display yield adjusted for storage moisture and adjust what we want our storage moisture to be calculated to. And the last submenu is the grain quality camera. We can adjust the sensitivity of the material other than grain and the portion of broken grain. You can also adjust brightness and the frequency of the picture that it's taking in the clean grain elevator. Next, we will go to the jobs menu. This is where you can keep track of different farms and fields. This is only available if you do not have a third-party mapping system like AgLeader or Trimble connected to your machine. There are some settings where you can print data, and you can also see your GPS coordinate information here. We'll take a look at the counter menu. There are several counters in here. The first one is your daily recorder A. So this is simply a resettable counter that keeps track of all this information. We can reset it by clicking here and hit yes, and it will clear all the information back to 0. The second submenu is the crop recorder. This records this information per crop. So we can see our information for soybeans, and we can change this to wheat and see this information for wheat as well as any other crop that you have harvested. And the last is recorder summaries. This is the total information for the lifetime of the machine. This is not resettable. So here we have the total working hours of the machine, total separator hours, total effective working hours, total straw chopper hours, area, bushels, and the amount of DEF the machine consumed. We'll take a look at the service menu. Here's our front attachment maintenance counter if you have a front attachment with a module that records all this information. The second submenu is all the calibration procedures for the machine, and they're listed out in sections for when you want to do these. So at regular intervals, you want to learn the zero throughput, learn the quantimeter 0 point, returns volume 0 point, and machine speeds. Anytime you change your front attachment, you want to do these settings, and every season you want to do all the rest. Next submenu is vehicle diagnostics. So this simply gives us some sensor readings from around the machine. Can be useful for finding problems. Next submenu is engine diagnostics. This is where you come if you think you have an engine error code. It will display the SPN and FMI number here. Record those numbers and contact your service department for more information. Alarm lists records all of the errors and warnings that came up while you were operating your machine. We can filter this out. We can show error warning and information, or just error and warning, or error only. That changes what is on this list. And we can choose how many items the list displays. Any one of these error codes, you can simply click on it and see what the error code was that came up. Important to take note of the ID number when you call the service department. Here it gives you some information about the error code. This may help you diagnose the problem. And don't forget to get the CCN and FMI numbers to the service department as well. The next submenu is modules. This simply displays the hardware and software information of each of the modules around the machine. CEBIS parameters goes the CEBIS versions for all the different languages. Mobile network is for telematics, tells you some information about the status of your signal, how well it's connected, and whether it's communicating or not. This is the settings menu. The first submenu in the settings menu is the user type. You can change this to beginner, normal, or professional. This changes what features you can adjust and display in the CEBIS. So if you have a beginner operator that you don't want to adjust any critical settings, you can set it for beginner and it will lock out some of the settings. If you have trouble making adjustments, if things seem to be grayed out and things are not letting you adjust, make sure that you are set for the professional user type. The second submenu is display settings. You can set the CEBIS display for day mode or night mode. You can adjust the backlight of the screen, and you can also tell it to automatically adjust from day mode to night mode depending on whether your work lights are turned on or turned off. Next submenu is user-defined displays. Here you can change what is displaying in each of the 3 windows on your operating screen. These are all customizable. The next submenu is your favorites management. This is what information shows for you to adjust when you click the star button on your hydro handle or your console. It always defaults to position 1 every time you click the star, and then you can adjust up or down to adjust any one of these functions. You can choose what functions display here simply by clicking a line, and then you have a list of items to choose from. The next submenu is your automatic lights menu. You can tell your work lights to turn on when you back up, turn your grain tank unloading tube work light on, and this turns your warning beacon on when your grain tank is 70% filled, so your grain cart operator knows the bin's getting full. He needs to come over to your combine for an unload. The audio settings menu simply changes the volume of the alarm when you have an error code or a warning like your bin is filled. Assignment of display areas lets you change what is in each of these 3 windows. Typically, display area 1 is set for auto contour, and then you can customize displays 2 and 3 to whatever you want. Next submenu is camera input 1. You can turn your camera input off or choose which position you have the camera mounted and how you want it to respond. So if you click rear view camera and discharging view camera, it will turn that camera on when you back up or when you swing your unloading auger out. We have the same thing for camera input 2. And then basic settings is to adjust how our information displays, whether it is in standard units or metric units. The last menu item is information. Here is a QR code you can scan to download the CLAAS Connect app, which gives you digital access to part stock, operators manuals, fluid volumes and quantities, and much more information about your machine. So there's an overview of the CEBIS settings in Lexion Combine. If you have more questions, consult your operator's manual or call the service department. Thank you.